Well, friends, welcome to this press conference. I am Reverend Henrik Grape from World Council of Churches, and I am the coordinator of the Working Group of Climate Change. We are here as faith groups on COP. We have a long history of faith communities being at COP. In the case of World Council of Churches, there have been a delegation since the COP started, so it's a long story to follow between the World Council of Churches and the COP process. Now, I want to take this opportunity to inform and to also share what we have been doing during this COP and what is in the line of the interfaith movement to deal with COPs. There is also a story of interfaith statements when it comes to climate change for several years in a row before the COPs that actually has gathered religious leaders from all over the world and from all our faith traditions. That is, I think, inspiring for all of us to understand that faith is not just a personal issue. Faith is also something that wants us to act when we see that the creation or the nature or Mother Earth is threatened. Because today, when we live in a situation when climate change is such an urgent issue, humanity is in a very special position for the future. Some say that the decision we take today is of the utmost importance of the future, for future generation and for the earth itself. And that is practically a very new situation. And if humanity is in this position to have this power over the future of the planet that has never been before, the more important it is the values that guides us, the outlook that we have on this earth, the ethics that guides us. So that is one of many reasons why faith communities come together as this, because we have this moral obligation to act. And also we see that climate issues, the concept of climate change is also very much challenging our concept of justice, because thus the most vulnerable to climate change are the poorest of the world, and the irony is that they have contributed least to the greenhouse gases that is the problem when it comes to climate change. So I just want to start it off to get some kind of settings for this, and I would like to give the word to Reverend James Bagman from Fiji to take the floor, please.
Thank you very much, Reverend Henrik. It's a pleasure to be able to partner with the World Council of Churches and the many other faith communities that are trying to do their best to help shift the minds and hearts of communities to move towards more sustainable living as a solution to climate change or to mitigate climate change. I come from Fiji. I'm with the Methodist Church in Fiji, serving as Secretary for Communication. It's a pleasure to be here in Bonn to support not only Fiji's presidency of the COP23, but to stand with brothers and sisters from other faith communities to address this very important issue. In the Pacific, we are on the front lines, as many of you know, of climate change, but we're also struggling with the issue of culture and adaptation to the lifestyles that have been sort of promoted to us from the global north. And we are very grateful to the initiatives and the call to live simply in the interfaith statement that was delivered yesterday to the UNFCCC. Living simply is the way that we like to do things in the Pacific. It's the traditional way of living in harmony with nature. Many of our people traditionally in our cultures have sacred trees, sacred plants, sacred animals, and these things, along with our faiths or our spiritualities, help us recognize and revere life and the necessity of living in harmony with nature, and at the same time taking only what we need. And I think this is a very important initiative to see the faith communities in what we call the Global North trying to push for the same initiative. Food security is a very big issue for us in the Pacific. As salt water inundates our coastal areas, we find it difficult to grow food. As warm water or the sea heats up, as we have ocean acidification, fish become less. And so the challenge for us to support, or the challenge for us to survive, is an existential issue for us, not just a spiritual one. And we're very grateful that we can see movement in the North inspired by faith communities which have the ability to mobilize so much of the world, so many people. 85% of the world connect to some form of spirituality or faith. And so faith communities play a very, very important role in the mobilization of changing lifestyles. And so I'm very grateful to be here to support this initiative. And I hope that it can grow, and that faith leaders at the national and global level take this initiative on board. Thank you, Henrik.
Thank you, Reverend. I will leave the word to Reverend Nedi Astudillo, please.
Well, good afternoon. Yes, I'm Nedi Astudillo. I'm a Presbyterian pastor in the United States, and I also work with Green Faith.
Second slide.
Which is a multi-faith organization which aims to inspire, to train, engage, and mobilize people of faith for environmental and climate action. As Reverend James mentioned, yesterday we have a wonderful event here in Bonn, where together with a number of different organizations, including the World Council of Churches, the Brahma Kumaris, World Spiritual University, the Bhumi Project, the Global Catholic Climate Movement, the Global Muslim Climate Network, HESON, the Islamic Society of North America, One Earth Shanga, and the Unitarian Universalists, the Parliament of World Religions. Together we have felt this call and heard it clear. As people of faith, we are called to care for Earth, and also to be care for our brothers and sisters, especially the vulnerable communities all around the world, in the global South and also the global North, who today are at risk because of climate change. So yesterday we had the opportunity to bring this declaration, which was called
Slide.
Walk Gently on Earth. And it is a way in which all people of faith, we are engaging and we are committing to live sustainable lifestyles and to work on issues of food and energy and transportation, to train ourselves and to make the necessary changes in our own lifestyles, and also to work with members of our own denominations, churches, faiths. So we together could also bring the necessary changes that are needed all around the world to meet the 1.5 degree living mark. We know the challenge is great, but we also feel supported by our faith. We feel that that's our strength, the possibility of realizing that there's something more than us is there, that it's not just about us, this world, but that we are called to more, and we have this idea of a sacred world, a sacred God, and also the divine and the goodness within ourselves. So inspired by those values and those aspects of faith, we're able to come together and to work together and celebrate this beautiful diversity and be stronger by coming together to find the necessary ways in which we can solve our climate crisis today. So that's why we're here together, and we will continue working in this initiative in this coming year. We will have international different gatherings all around the world next year in a way to continue working on these issues and create different focus groups, because working on living simply in the north maybe not the same as in the south. As I have heard Reverend James say, there are some countries and some populations around the world who have no choice whether how they would transport, use the energy, or eat even. So there are definitely differences in which we will all tackle these issues, but we will be working together and supporting each other. So we are one human family, one planet, and many faiths.
Thank you. Sister Valerian, please, you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Reverend. So it is really an honor to be working with like-minded people. I think that for me, the climate change crisis has allowed many strings to be pulled together. One of the strings, because I'm based in Geneva, that seems really a very important one, is the whole issue of the human rights connected to climate change. Because climate change is affecting all the different human rights that we do have. Clean water, food, housing, work, migration. Even wars are happening now around this topic. So I think that one of the things that we are really working for, a small group of faith in Geneva called the Geneva Interfaith Forum for Climate Change, Human Rights and Environment, has been to really push for some kind of instrument to happen at the level of the Council of Human Rights in Geneva to analyze, study, and bring some kind of knowledge to the Council about the situation of human rights. And then I'm Brahma Kumaris, so I would like to talk to you a little bit about that. The way we understand the spiritual reality is that there are spiritual laws. There are realities that are not just physical, just as we know that there are physical laws like gravity and light, and there are also spiritual impact of the way we choose to live. And so the responsibility of human beings is tremendous regarding the situation of our planet, how it affects our brothers and sisters, how it affects our home, our Mother Earth is also part of our responsibility. So there is an individual responsibility, and there is also a collective one, and a historic responsibility. So, of course, the whole topic of the way we can look at that with the color of our faith and the heart of our beliefs is going to be very different. But for us, we come from a space where we believe that the purer the spirit, the more the spirit will actually be non-violent and loveful and respectful towards himself, towards the planet, towards nature in general, and towards his brothers and sisters. So for me, the work that each one of us does inside himself in the privacy of his own intimacy has a tremendous importance, because it clarifies, it allows to see solutions, to think out of the box, and to have a bigger heart, a more compassionate heart, to embrace the reality of all of us. So non-violence for us starts with a vegetarian or a plant-based diet. It is also related to being kind to the body, and how do we eat, how do we treat ourselves is something that is very important in this day and age of so much contamination, even within the food we have. So I would like to say that I believe we have the power to make many, many changes by tackling into a pure form of energy that doesn't contaminate. So, of course, physically you'll have the solar energy, but spiritually you also have the source of all love and bliss and knowledge and power. And it is just one thought away. And it belongs to all of us. And we belong to that source, all of us. So I think we wanted to leave some space for questions. I hope I wasn't too long. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Yes, we will open up the floor for some questions, and I want you to stand up and use the microphone and say who you are.
Be as brief as possible.
As brief as possible. So, anybody else want to ask a question? There we are.
Yep. You want to say something?
No.
Please.
Yes, thank you. My name is Azucena Villarroel. I come from an institute that works for the technology transfer. My question is, what do you think would be the next most important actions, common actions in all this phase to fight against a common target that is to fight against the climate change? Thank you.
We can take some more questions. You're not that many, so everybody can have a question. Here we have one.
I have a very personal question maybe for all of you. And how can spirituality or your faith can continue to lead us into the future with hope, with peace? How can we go to that place that we all want, which is a sustainable future? And for also, in this case, for future generations.
I think we can start to answer. Anybody who volunteer to answer to? Okay, please.
Sure.
I'll start by answering Azucena's question. What is the common answer that we all have? As we have mentioned before, we, as people from different faiths, we have realized that we all, in all our traditions, there is a calling for caring for the earth and caring for the most vulnerable. And one way in which we're coming together to, with a common answer is to tackling these issues of our food consumption, our transportation, and energy use as a way to be mindful that our actions and our choices do have an impact on the environment and on climate, and that we have a responsibility, just as much as governments have a responsibility, to also be mindful and to care for people. We as people of faith also have a calling to make the right choices in the way that we live our lives. And for those of us who live in the north, and realizing that we are part of economies that overuse the natural resources of the world. Like for me, I live in the United States. We're only 5% of the world's populations, but use 30% of the world's natural resources and make the same kind of waste at the same time, the amount of waste. It is not just that we do what we are doing. We are causing that there are many other people all around the world and future generations that will not have the opportunities that I'm having today. So as a person of faith, we realize that we need to make changes to be able to bring justice. As Sister Vivian Valerian mentioned, this is a matter of justice. So we're trying to be mindful, going back to our traditions, realizing what is there that can sustain us, our faith, our values, reforming our traditions or our creeds if they're necessary, to realize where we have made a mistake in the last few years in the way that we have been people of faith. We moved away from our relationship with nature and relationship with each other, so we are reforming that as well. And so those are some of the ways in which we are working together, and we will continue working together.
Thank you. Valerian and James also like to.
I think that, yes, we can act, like my sister was saying, so I won't repeat because time is short, individually, inwards, and outwards, meaning within the way I think, as I was explaining earlier, but also within the way I live my life, and I choose to consume or live simply and eat such or such food. And then we can have an impact on the collective community, country, and the world through the kind of work we are all doing here. We are trying to have that impact. So I think this is our action. And for spirituality, for me, I think that it is the only way to sustain myself in that work. Otherwise, I would just sit and cry or have a nervous breakdown. That's what I would do, because it's terrible. So for me to be able to have my eyes open, but at the same time my heart open, I really need to connect to a spiritual source and feel that I belong and feel that we all belong. Because in that belonging, I find the force to actually go on serving or sharing or giving. And in this, I believe that the next generations, we are all on this planet for some reason, and each one of us has a different mission, a different time. But we definitely are the caretaker that have to pass it on. So I do feel that the next generations are very precious. And it's not just about having children, because obviously I don't have children with the choice of life that I've done. But everyone is my brother. Some is younger. But I do feel that we have that love and responsibility towards them.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'll, noting time, try to merge my response to both questions. Thank you so much for those questions. We're at a stage where in the Pacific, as you know very well from the news, the information that's out there about what life is like for us. But in many of our cases, when we sit down in our homes, we sit on mats. I'm sure mats are rugs in some cultures, but all of these things require weaving. And in our culture, when the mats get damaged, we don't have to necessarily throw them away. We reweave. We open up, we take out the strands that are damaged or that are causing damage, and we weave new strands into the mats. And mat weaving is a job not just for women, but for men, for the whole community. It's something that we can all do together. So in the Pacific context, what we are calling for is a reweaving of the ecological mat. And that means that we need to relook at many things, to unpack, deconstruct, and reconstruct.
First slide again, please.
And one of those things is the language that we are using. Right now we tend to have a language of dominance, a language that desacralizes the environment, makes it easier for us to exploit it. And that is something that spirituality, spiritual languages offer when we talk about sacredness of the environment, sacredness of creation. That connects with our cultures, with our spiritualities, and helps us in the conversion of moving away from the I want mentality to something that is more in tune with nature. The other side of things that we need to look at is a spirituality of hospitality, because the mat is also spread for people to sit on. And in a situation where we are going to start to seeing more and more climate-induced migration, We need to be able to welcome people with open hearts, because for many of these people, they will have nowhere to return to. And so I think that is where our faith communities can play a very important role in reshaping the way that people look at the environment and at each other.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there any more questions? We just got 3 minutes, or I will try to wrap this up. Can't see any more. Yes, there is one. Please.
Thank you. My name is Niranjan. I'm a part of the UN volunteers and also a part of Brahma Kumaris. So my question is that a lot of climate change and a lot of the things associated with it and the way we're trying to solve it is a lot related to scientific evidence. There is a lot of evidence out there also about how if we change ourselves spiritually and how we develop ourselves, there can be positive changes in the environment. How much do you think this can be supported by your organizations, that if you could show this to people, that they could have, that there could be more of maybe a following in this area of trying to develop themselves individually through scientific evidence on this? Thank you.
Thank you. I will try to answer that in a short way. I think that the reason why we are sitting here together from different faith communities, and the history of faith communities is fight, and we are demonstrating that we actually see each other as important players in our multitude of being in spirit, exemplifying spirituality. So I believe that the multitude of spirituality in this world is an asset to actually come to further decision, because we need the politics, that's why we're here. We need the technology, but we also need the kind of values that direct us to the future where we're going to go, because we have the knowledge that we are on the wrong track, and we need some kind of value-based driven forces that takes us further away and takes us up to sustainability and takes us to a more just world in the future. So if we are going to make peace on earth, we also have to make peace with earth, and we must do this together as faith communities. From the Arctic to the Pacific, from the west to the east, we have all the resources also from our faith communities that actually can step up and say, yes, we need to change and we need to overcome this kind of political obstacles that are constructed by consumerism, constructed by a way of understanding how to deal with a planet that you cannot negotiate with. We have one planet, we have the boundaries, we know about it. Faith communities must come say, we can do this together. We are brothers and sisters, we are not neighbors, we are family. And that is something different. And this is the role of faith communities, to actually be a part of this road ahead that is going to sustainability, that is going to a more just and a more peaceful world. And I think that is the last word from us today. And we close it there. Thank you.